Good day. Today we are talking about day 260. Welcome to the CJC Bible Plan. And I am going to be covering Daniel 7, Daniel 8, and Daniel 9. And initially when you read Daniel 7 and 8, you are just overwhelmed by the details, just the nature of what you are reading. It's so, the beasts, the horns, it seems so out of touch and so out of this world, and you can actually be engrossed and just be drawn into the descriptions of what you see. But what I like about the Bible is that even though the vision seems scary and it seems out of this world, the Bible actually provides us an explanation. So Daniel, after he had seen these two visions in Daniel 7 and 8, he then goes on to ask, so what does this mean? And in Daniel 7, in both Daniel 7 and 8, it actually teaches you and I that when we read the Bible, we should actually not be too engrossed in trying to figure things out that have already been explained. So I just want to encourage us, even as we are reading the Bible, that we focus a lot on the explanations that are provided instead of trying to use our imaginations to try and figure out what the Bible could be saying. So in chapter 7, verse 18, as scary as the vision is, we know that how it ends. We know that it ends with our hope, the fact that in the end, the Most High God will be given the kingdom and he will rule over that kingdom forever. So this gives us the hope not to be swayed by what we hear and see, because we already know how the entire story will end. So I think it encourages us even during this time, in our own time, when we see things, when we see injustice and we see things not going well, we should always remember we know how the story ends. And in this case, even after we had seen all these nations rising and looking very powerful, at the end we know that it was the Holy One who was going to prevail. In verse 25, the last king will try to change the sacred festivals and laws and will place the holy people under his control for a time. But in the end, power, sovereignty, and greatness will be given to the holy people, and the kingdom of God it will not end. It will never end. So regardless of how hectic at that time that Daniel saw, that end time that Daniel saw, we know that it will end with the children of God, with the holy people getting all sovereignty, power, and greatness. And in chapter 8 is a similar story, again from verse 17, after Daniel had experienced great terror and he was terrified, Gabriel came and began explaining to Daniel that, Daniel, what you are seeing is actually how things are going to end in the end times. What you are seeing is something that is still going to happen in a very long time, and this is what the end time looks like. And in verse 24, after describing so much terror, which even includes the heavens armies, the fact that the heavens armies are also going to be attacked, we see our hope again, that it will not be broken. That in verse 24, it tells us that this last power that looks so enormous, that looks like it cannot be defeated, it will be broken, and it assures us that it will not be broken through human power. So sometimes when we look at spiritual war, at spiritual fights, we think that we have to fight whether through our discussions or we have to fight physically, and drive things away. But here the Bible assures us that it will not be done through human power. And after this vision that Daniel saw in chapter 8, the Bible actually tells us that it was so hectic that it made Daniel sick for several days, that it affected his natural body and he was sick. And lastly, in chapter 9, Daniel then goes and he reads the word. And I found this to be so comforting, that after seeing the visions in chapter 7 and chapter 8, the next thing that Daniel, and remember chapter 8 ended by telling us that Daniel is sick. So he had been sick for several days, he couldn't even go to work, now he's back at work. But the first thing that he does in chapter 9, he goes back to the word, and next he reads the word. he actually discovers that no, the destruction of Jerusalem should have been coming to an end. And then he begins to intercede. And he intercedes advised by the word that he had just read that was prophesied by Jeremiah. So as hectic as that, those visions were, they did not derail him from understanding the times that Jerusalem was in, and they did not derail him from interceding for his generation at the time. And I think that is such a powerful way to relate with God, that you are hearing about something that is going to happen in the end times. It is debilitating, it is making him sick, but he's still able to remove himself from what he had just learned, from the vision that he has just seen, and he reads the word, he applies the word to his current circumstances, and then he begins to intercede, and he's praying and he's fasting for Jerusalem at that time. And for me personally, the verse that really ministered to me is chapter 9 in verse 23, and this one I'm going to read it in chapter 9 verse 23, and it says, when the angel Gabriel came to speak to Daniel at the end of his prayer, says, the moment you began praying, a command was given, and now I am here to tell you what it was, for you are very precious to God. Listen carefully so that you can understand the meaning of your vision. And you know, it's so comforting that even when you think God does not hear you, he has already heard you. And this was the message that Gabriel brought to Daniel, to say, yes, you've been praying, yes, you've been fasting, and contrary to how the visions had been affecting you, you are precious in the sight of God. And I think it was such a powerful and such an important message for Daniel to hear at this time. So please join us for our Zoom sessions, and thank you so much for listening. Do read Daniel 7, 8, and 9. I know it was a short summary, but it's a powerful word. Thank you so much.